Hi, today, welcome to Vegan Land. Today, people are always talking to me about, well, what do you suggest? You know, what sort of things can you bring to the table? So, what I've been thinking about is things like the G7 and the COP, which are these major uh, political events that are happening in the UK. The G7 this year, the G7 is happening in Carbis Bay in Cornwall in June, and the COP is happening in November in Glasgow. So, my thinking around this is, can we move the vegan agenda forward and be taken seriously by other activists, politicians, and how can we raise the profile of veganism, perhaps in that more traditional way? So, finding out about the G7, I'm plowing through the research, a transformative agenda for the G7, apparently, produced by some sort of organisation called Bond. Now, what they say about the G7, the UK will host world leaders at the 2021 G7 summit in an exceptionally challenging context: a global pandemic, climate and ecological emergencies, increasing humanitarian needs, blah, 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 rising poverty, and COVID 19's colossal impact on global economies. So I was kind of well, that's all relevant, isn't it? That all is relevant to vegan advocacy. We can advocate on the whole animal rights side, but also mention zoonotic diseases, the animal agriculture, climate change connections, all that. And the language that they use in these documents, it's both sickening and it sounds like they want to be NGOs. There is a short window for the wealthiest countries to support efforts to build back better. Yikes, there's Boris in there. After the pandemic, now is our chance to help tackle the systemic issues. We like tackling the systemic issues that have left countries ill equipped to withstand a global health emergency and prevented progress on the Sustainable Development Goals. The importance of these universal and interconnected goals has never been clearer. None of us are safe until we are all safe. Well, then they talk about setting a truly transformational agenda, and I'm just like, okay, so what does that mean? And are there any openings for the vegan good news in this, which you think they should be? They talk about health. They say, amazingly, that health is interconnected with every aspect of our lives. We cannot have prosperous societies and economies without healthy populations worldwide. And therefore, we can easily cruise into the whole notion of plant based diets, as well as animal rights, as well as biodiversity loss. Improve global health security, which can only be achieved through global solidarity. Yeah, really. Then they talk about climate and the environment. And they talk about halting and reversing biodiversity loss and nature's decline, as though nature is just declining, just sort of, oh, it's having a bad hair day or bad hair decades, and it's just sort of knackered. Rather than the biggest driver, as we all know, the biggest driver of biodiversity loss is what? Yep, the person that said the animal death industry is absolutely correct. Doesn't say that here. Animal death industry isn't mentioned, which is really typical. And this is why I think, this the G7 is being held in Carbis Bay. Now, I'm sure the security will be intense, and apparently, there's going to be no civil society representation. I talked to bloke Tim from the Vegan Society, who seemed to be pretty sure about that. I'm not sure how we as vegans could make some inroads. Maybe talk to our local media about this, particularly if we live in the West Country, or with the hook anyway of the G7, we can start maybe doing some, trying to get some profile, like for veganism, for the notion of animal rights. People are talking about health, these global issues. They're talking about system change, which, as you know, I'm always banging on about system change. But this is, from the system is talking about system change. So everybody's talking about system change. Will it actually happen? I don't know. But this is something that, maybe local media outlets, local newspapers, I mean, they're clearly desperate for content. They're always desperate for content. Or we write a letter to them. Like Ron Lee always recommends that, and it's a really good strategy. They talk about the ongoing injustices of the global economic system. Yes, and what are they going to do about it? Probably not an awful lot, although it all sounds good, doesn't it? And there was another one that was really, really, really good. Here we go. Food security and nutrition. Now, as you know, I'm always banging on about, as an ethical vegan, I feel mixed. Now, I feel torn in two when it comes to discussions about food and therefore positioning animal rights in that context. But I do feel that there are certain, when there's a public debate about food and nutrition, I think it's an opportunity for us to talk about animal rights and justice for other animals. And even here in this very pro the dominant culture setup, people are talking about supporting smallholder farmers, particularly women and indigenous people, to build resistance to climate change by investing in local adaptation, agroecology. Now, I'm hoping that is, I think that's when they talk about, small scale animal farming, which we don't like, crop diversification, which we do like, and strengthening local markets to cope with shocks. So I think these are all opportunities to start to bring veganism into the debate, start to have a conversation with other people, maybe environmental groups, maybe other NGOs, start to prepare what we want to say and the points that we want to make. Maybe use the G7 as a bit of a practice run. This is what I'm thinking. G7 we could use as a bit of a practice run for the COP, which is happening in November, as I said, in Glasgow. In terms of everything, in terms of if we're a small local group or even an individual, what do we want to do? Do we want to do something? Do we want to try and get some media attention? Do we want to organise with other vegans about something? Do we want to talk to maybe environmental groups about this? It's an opportunity because there will be a massive media spotlight on the G7. And the thing with the media spotlight is basically sort of like, once it's shining, to get it to direct that shine in the direction that you want it to be, i.e. animal rights. Yes, animal rights, animal liberation. Use it as an opportunity and have a few sound bites, have a bit of a line about what you want to say and crack on with it. So that's my thought about the G7 and a bit of thoughts about the COP. And that's Liz's thought about the COP. Anything else, Liz? Anyway, thank you for listening. And there'll be more about this. Might be talking to more people from the Vegan Society. We're in discussions at the moment. But I hope you have a really pleasant afternoon, nice evening, and some fun during the rest of the week. And why not party on down, and maybe some nice vegan cakes and donuts would be great. This is Pamela, Animal Justice Emergency. Together we can fight to end the war on other animals. Please, if you like this, don't forget, subscribe, bell, ding, notification, like, subscribe, notification, everything. You take care. Have a fantastic day.